Sometimes suffering doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive all at once. It enters quietly. People around you notice the sadness. They tell you to stay positive. Everything happens for a reason. They remind you that time heals. But anyone who has lived through real pain knows one thing, that there are moments when advice feels too small for what you are carrying. The problem isn't that you don't know what to do. The problem is that you've forgotten why you should keep doing it. Many years ago, another man found himself standing before the same question. His circumstances were unimaginably different, but the question was painfully familiar. What keeps a human being alive when almost everything has been taken away from him? That man was Viktor E. Frank. Before the war, he was a psychiatrist in Vienna. He believed that understanding the human mind meant understanding what gives people a reason to live. In 1942, he was deported to a Nazi concentration camp. Everything changed. He was separated from his family, his freedom disappeared, the future he had imagined for himself disappeared with it. Like every new prisoner, he arrived carrying only a few belongings. Hidden among them was something precious. It was the manuscript of the work he had been writing. A guard searched him, looked at the pages, and threw them away. Imagine watching years of your work disappear in a single moment. Most of us will never experience anything so extreme, but we know what it feels like to lose something that held a piece of our identity, a dream, a relationship, a career, a future we had already begun living in our imagination. Loss has a way of asking the same question, no matter what form it takes. Now, who are you? Frank could have spent every day thinking everything he had lost. Instead, something else caught his attention. He began observing people, not as a scientist collecting data, but as a fellow prisoner trying to understand something that had become deeply personal. Why did some people lose the will to live so quickly, while others somehow found the strength to endure another day? Everyone was hungry, everyone was cold, everyone was afraid, yet they didn't all respond in the same way. He noticed something that almost every human being experiences when life suddenly falls apart. He called it the first phase, and he named it shock. When prisoners first entered the camp, many simply couldn't believe it. Their minds resisted reality. Their minds were telling them that this was temporary. Surely tomorrow things would be different. We do the same thing when a relationship ends. We do the same thing when we expect a phone to ring. When we lose someone we love, there are moments when we almost forget that they are gone. Until reality returns all over again. When a dream collapses, part of us keeps acting as though life will somehow return this to us. Our minds protect us from pain by refusing to accept it all at once. Frank wasn't criticizing that reaction. He was simply describing it. Because healing doesn't begin with pretending pain isn't real. It begins the moment we are finally able to look at reality without looking away. There is something frightening about the way human beings adapt. We adapt to beautiful things so quickly that we stop noticing them. But we also adapt to pain, not because pain becomes easier, because the mind finds ways to survive it. After spending weeks in the concentration camp, Viktor Frank noticed that something inside prisoners was beginning to change. The fear that had overwhelmed them in the beginning slowly became quieter. Not because the danger had disappeared, the danger was everywhere. People were still starving, they were still being beaten, they still watched others die. But the mind, unable to remain in a state of constant terror, began protecting itself. Frank called this apathy. Today, psychologists often describes it as emotional numbing. It's not the absence of feeling, it's what happens when the heart has been forced to carry more pain than it knows how to hold. Reading this, I couldn't help thinking that many people experience something similar, even far away from a concentration camp. a doctor who has watched too many patients die, a soldier returning from war, someone caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's, a student who has failed so many times that they stop believing success is possible, or someone who has spent years pretending to be okay until they can no longer remember what okay feels like. Eventually, the mind stops reacting with the same intensity, not because the pain has ended, but the feeling that every single day would make survival impossible. Frank describes prisoners walking past suffering that only weeks earlier would have horrified them. They saw illness, they saw violence, they saw death so often that shock slowly gave way to silence. That sounds disturbing, and it is. But before we judge them, we should ask ourselves another question. Haven't we done something similar? How many heartbreaking headlines have we scrolled past this week without stopping? How many times have we said, that's terrible, and then moved on with our day? The human mind isn't cruel, it's limited. It cannot carry the weight of every tragedy forever. It protects itself. And yet, even in that place, something remarkable kept happening. Every now and then, Frank would see a prisoner share his last piece of bread. Think about that for a moment. Not someone sharing from abundance, someone sharing when he himself had almost nothing. From a practical point of view, it made no sense. That piece of bread might have helped him survive another day. So, why he gave it away? Frank wasn't interested in the bread, he was interested in what the bread revealed. It revealed that even when almost everything had been taken from a prisoner, one thing still remained untouched: the ability to choose. Years later, Frank would write one of the most quoted lines from his work. Everything can be taken away from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. This sentence is often misunderstood. It is not saying we can simply choose to be happy. Frank never believed that. He wasn't asking starving prisoners to smile. He wasn't denying grief. He wasn't pretending suffering didn't matter. He was pointing to something much quieter. There is a space between what happens to us and how we respond to it. Sometimes that space is very small. Sometimes, when life is overwhelming, it feels almost impossible to find. But it exists. And within that space lives our freedom. Not the freedom to control the world, the freedom to decide what kind of person we will become because of the world. Frank saw people who allowed suffering to make them cruel. He also saw people who remained compassionate even in circumstances that almost seem impossible to imagine. The difference wasn't luck, it wasn't intelligence, it wasn't physical strength. It was the choice they continued making even when nobody was watching. One story stayed with me. Frank, throughout his life, during long marches in the freezing cold, exhausted beyond words, he found himself thinking about his wife. He didn't know whether she was alive. He had no way of finding out. She might already have been dead. But in those moments, he realized that love did not depend on certainty. He could still speak to his wife in his mind. He could still remember her face. He could still feel strengthened by the simple act of loving her. Out of that experience came one of the most beautiful lines he ever wrote. The salvation of one man is through love and in love. Notice what he discovered. Love wasn't merely a reward waiting for him after suffering ended. Love itself became a way of surviving suffering. And perhaps that's something many of us forget. When life becomes difficult, we often postpone everything meaningful. I'll spend time with my family when things settle down. I'll be kind when I'm less stressed. I'll start living once this difficult chapter is over. Frank's experience suggests the opposite. The things that give life meaning are not the prize waiting at the end of the suffering. They are often the very small things that help us walk through it. At some point the war ended. The gates of the concentration camps opened. The guards disappeared. The prisoners walked out. If if this were a movie, this is where the music would rise. This is where everyone would embrace each other, cry with relief, and begin a new life. But that's not what happened. Frank observed many prisoners didn't know how to feel. For years, they had dreamed of freedom. They had imagined this moment over and over. Yet, when it finally arrived, many felt strangely empty. Their bodies were free, but their minds were still trapped in everything they had lived through. Pain doesn't always leave the days our circumstances change. Sometimes it stays with us, sometimes it changes us, and sometimes, if we are not careful, we begin to believe that our suffering is all we are. Frank refused to believe that. Looking back on those years, he realized that the people who endured the unimaginable were not always the strongest. They were not always the smartest or the healthiest. Again and again, he noticed that those who had something to live for, a person they hoped to see again, a responsibility they still wanted to fulfill, a piece of work they believed only they could complete, often found the strength to take one more step. That reminded him of a line by Friedrich Nietzsche that he often quoted: "He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." Notice what the sentence doesn't say. It doesn't say that if your purpose is strong enough, life won't hurt. It doesn't say you'll stop grieving. It doesn't promise that everything will work out. It simply suggests that when we know why we are moving forward, we can survive hardships that once seemed impossible. Frank, Frank came to believe that our deepest need isn't the pursuit of happiness, it's the pursuit of meaning. And meaning is difficult for every person. For one person, it may be raising a child with love. For another, it may be creating something beautiful. For someone else, it may simply be caring for an aging parent with dignity. Meaning isn't measured by applause, it isn't measured by money. It's measured by whether your life is an honest answer to the responsibilities that only you can fulfill. There is another idea from Frank that had stayed with me ever since I read it. He wrote, "Everything can be taken away from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." This is probably his most famous sentence. Frank wasn't saying we choose what happens to us. He knew better than anyone that we don't. He lost his parents, he lost his brother, he lost his wife. He didn't choose any of that. What he was saying is something much quieter and perhaps much more demanding. Life will ask questions we never wanted to answer. It will place burdens on us that we never volunteered to carry. But even then, it cannot make our choices for us. It cannot decide whether pain will make us bitter or compassionate. It cannot decide whether loss will close our hearts or deepen them. It cannot decide whether we will give up on life or continue searching meaning within it. Maybe that's why Frank didn't spend the rest of his life asking, why did this happen to me? Instead, he encouraged a different question. Not what do I expect from life, but what does life expect from me? I think that question changes everything. Because the moment we stop waiting for life to become perfect before we begin living, we reclaim something that no circumstances can take away. So if you are watching this while carrying grief, or disappointment, or loneliness, or a dream that seems to have fallen apart, I don't have easy answers for you. Frank wouldn't have. But his life leaves us with a quiet hope. Your suffering does not get the final word, not because it will disappear tomorrow, not because everything will suddenly make sense, but because as long as you are alive, there is still a choice that belongs only to you. The choice to decide that this pain will make what this pain will make of you. And perhaps that's where meaning begins. Thank you for watching. If you find it meaningful, share it with your friends, and I will try to make these kind of videos in the coming future. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you.